Welcome back, and I apologize for the abrupt end to our last video. I kind of ran out of time. So that was a short and quick goodbye, but I hope you did well with factor by grouping and not by grouping, finding the greatest common factor. And we will use that. That is always our first question when we are factoring polynomials or functions. So what do we do if we can't find a greatest common factor, or we have a polynomial that's in the form of x squared plus bx plus c, where b and c are integers? Well, we can break that down into its two binomial factors, and there's a process for doing that. So we need to find two factors of c, of that constant, that total or add up to b. It's an easier process than it sounds at the moment, so don't panic. We'll work through a couple examples and find some factors. A good knowledge of your multiplication tables and knowing what multiplies to a certain number is definitely going to be an asset. Let's look at example 12. We're asked to factor x squared minus 8x plus 15. So our form was x squared plus some number times x plus our constant. So I need to find factors of c that add up to b. So what two numbers are b and c? B equals c equals. So b is negative 8 and c is 15. So I need to find two numbers that multiply to a positive 15 but add to a negative 8. Once again, if you see it, great. Just go right ahead and jump to it. But if not, create a chart to organize your information. So factors of 15 that add up to negative 8. What does that negative 8 tell you and positive 15? Well, in order to have a positive product, I need to either have a positive times a positive, that's going to give me a positive answer, or a negative times a negative, that's going to give me a positive product. Which one of those, however, will provide me with a negative total? We're only going to look at those negative factors. That's the only way I'm going to arrive at negative 8. So we need to start looking at those factors of 15. I can start with negative 1 times negative 15. That gives me positive 15. When I add them together, negative 1, 1 plus negative 15, that gives me negative 16. That's not my pair. So I go down to my next number, 2. Will 2 divide 15? Nope, it's not even. So it doesn't end in 0, 2, 4, 6, or 8. That won't work. What about 3? You're right, negative 3 times negative 5 definitely multiply to a positive 15. And when I add them, negative 3 plus negative 5, I get negative 8. This is my set of factors that work. So the factored polynomial is going to be, we take the first term without the exponent, if it's squared, so we'll have x, and then minus 3 minus 5. Just write those two factors we found into the second spot in those binomials. How do you suppose we check? We can use FOIL. So we're going to have x minus 3 times x minus 5. First, x times x is x squared. Outside, x times negative 5. Inside, and last. Notice the two factors here are the same set we found when we were looking at our factors. So we really are driving FOIL in reverse, going backwards. So now I simply combine my like terms. So I have x squared minus 8x plus 15. Not so hard. Our answer is correct. I'm always going to try and give you a way to check your answer so that when you are working on a test or a quiz, you can check and make sure that you completed all the steps correctly and you didn't make a silly mistake. I remember being in college, and I think I added 2 plus 3 as part of the solution to a problem. And instead of adding them, I went ahead and multiplied them. And I got the whole thing wrong at that point. So I want to give you a quick check or a way to check your answers to know if you're accurate or if you've made a silly mistake along the way. Please pause the video now and give example 13 a try. When you're ready, restart the video to check your work. Okay, our first step is to find and see if there is a greatest common factor. So I need to look at p squared, negative 6p, and 8 and try and determine, do I have a common factor? Well, the only factors of p squared are 1 and p squared. So right there, I don't have a p over in that 8. Just by looking at that, I can say no, we don't have a common factor between those three terms. Finding factors of 8 are constant that add up to negative 6. So factors of 8, a positive 8, that add or total to negative 6. You should have seen that to get the total of negative 6, I'm only going to look at negative times a negative for that 8. So the factors, negative 1 times negative 8, when I add them, I get negative 9, not my set. So I go to negative 2 times negative 4. Multiply them together, I get a positive 8. When I add them, I get negative 6. That is my set. That's the one that works for me. So I take my first term, p squared, and I put a p in the first spot, and then the two factors I found in the following location. They go right down into those binomials. Let's check and see how we did. I've got p minus 2, p minus 4, using FOIL, p squared minus 4p minus 2p plus 8. Combine my terms, p squared minus 6p plus 8. I arrived back at my original function and or expression in this case. So the factorization of p squared minus 6p plus 8 is the quantity p minus 2 times p minus 4. I have a challenge for you on example 14. I'd like you to try that at home and bring your work with you the next time we're together in class. From here, please proceed to do the self-check right underneath the videos, also printing out the results and bringing those with you to class next time. We will practice factoring a lot. It's very important in Algebra 2 as we move on to finding solutions for different types of functions. So really try to understand this. I'm going to post some online practice sites for you so you can go get additional practice if you'd like to. We'll see you next time in class. Until then, have a nice evening and happy factoring.